king made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords and drank wine before the 1,000. Belshazzar, whilst he tasted the wine, commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines might drink therein. Then they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple of the house of God, which was in Jerusalem, and the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines drank in them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and of silver, of brass, of iron, of wood, and of stone.
So, David,
Yes, sir.
who is Belshazzar?
That is King Nebuchadnezzar's son.
No one really knows. Let me give you the study Bible. It says Belshazzar is called the king of the son of Nebuchadnezzar. Other ancient records, however, seem to dispute both facts. These records indicate that Belshazzar was the son of Nabonidus, the last king of Babylon. It is possible that Belshazzar was the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. In ancient writings, the term father is often used to indicate ancestry rather than immediate family. Belshazzar may have served as vice regent while his father was still living. Nabonidus seemed to have spent a number of years of his reign in Arabia. Thus, he would have been acting as king, even if he was not officially king. Note that Darius the Mede was also called king, even though he served Cyrus.
Okay.
Just give you a little insight on a little ancient history.
Right.
If that'd be strange though, calling my grandfather father.
Not the American way, is it? Had to fill that in for Don.
Yeah. So, how to get the charger? So,
What's going dead?
that's what's
The main frame,
the main thing. The main thing.
brain of the operation.
In the same hour came 4 fingers.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
Ooh, not the finger.
4 fingers. Now this is interesting. I think Just might like this.
4 fingers.
Of a man's hand, just out of nowhere, floating hand, and wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaster of the walls of King Nebuchadnezzar's palace. And the king saw part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loosed.
He was shaking in his shoes.
Yep.
Does this say his knees were knocking together?
And his knees smote one against another.
Kind of reminds you of Three Stooges when they get scared.
I was going to say something, but never mind.
Never mind.
All right. Whose turn is it? David, go ahead. Read 7.
Okay. The king called aloud to bring in the enchanters, the Chaldeans, and the diviners. The king said to the wise men of Babylon, "Whoever can read this writing and explain its interpretation, to me shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold put around his neck and have authority as the 3rd ruler in the kingdom." Third ruler.
2 under.
Well, this here says, assuming that Belshazzar was acting as regent for his father, not Nabonidus, the third ruler would have been next in line for the throne.
3rd under.
So he must not have no kids big enough to. If he did, boy, he's making a bold statement.
Yeah.
He'd
Kick
be
them
leaving,
young'uns out.
he'd be leaving his kids off the throne.
They nothing but brats anyway.
Go ahead.
Let's see. It says, then all the king's wise men came, but they could not read the writing or reveal the king its interpretation. Then King Belshazzar was greatly perplexed. His face became even paler, and his nobles were bewildered and alarmed. Keep going?
Keep going.
Been going in. Now the queen overheard the words of the king and his nobles, came into the banquet area, and the queen spoke and said, "O king, live forever. Do not be alarmed at your thoughts, or let your face be changed."
I see a common thread here. Why do they always say, "O king, live forever"?
Respect.
And brown nosing.
Respect.
True.
Keep going.
Yeah.
That looks weird.
Yeah.
It looks like
That's what
the
I'm
first
looking at.
verse, and that was I there is a man.
Wait. No, that's the 11th verse.
I know it. There's a man in your kingdom in whom is a spirit of the holy gods. And in the days of your father, illuminated understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, were found in him. And the king Nebuchadnezzar, your father the king, appointed him chief of the magicians, enchanters, Chaldeans, and diviners.
So called upon everybody else, for as much as an excellent spirit and knowledge and understanding, interpreting of dreams and showing hard sentences and dissolving of doubts were found in the same Daniel, who the king had named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will show the interpretation. So they know that he can, again, like we talked about in the last chapter, that he can do
Put
it.
him on Front Street.
Yep.
Yeah, Daniel, he's a little older and a little slower right now, I believe.
Mm.
The mind's still there.
Yeah. Go ahead, Donald.
Then was Daniel brought in before the king, and the king spake and said unto Daniel, Art thou that Daniel, which art of the children of the capacity of Judea, whom the king my father brought out of Jewry? I have even heard of thee, that the spirit of the gods is in thee, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom is found in thee. And now the wise men, the astrologers, have been brought in before me, that they should read this writing and make known unto me the interpretation thereof. But they could not show the interpretation of the king.
So are you telling me that they cannot do that? They still can't do that?
Still can't do that after all these years.
After all these years.
Man, they're only human.
Only human. But
Or I should say, they're not blessed either.
what about
Not highly blessed and favored.
all these guys in Exodus though? Right? Because, Moses threw his staff on the ground and it turned into a snake. The magicians and all them, they threw their staff on the ground and it turned into a snake.
That was
How do you explain that?
That was Aaron's rod he threw to the ground in front of the Pharaoh.
Yeah.
Trickery.
And it wasn't a snake.
No, it was trickery.
No, I'm talking
Magic's always
about
trickery.
Aaron's.
Aaron's were real.
Yeah,
They dressed on
but this thing, what Aaron threw down was bigger than a snake. They called it a serpent.
Right.
So it could have been as big as an alligator.
That was a big snake.
Now the one Moses threw down, he threw down at the burning bush. And that one became a snake.
I'm sorry. Slithering snake.
And I have heard of thee, that thou canst make interpretations and dissolve doubts. Now if thou canst read the writing and make known to me the interpretation thereof, thou shalt be clothed with scarlet and have a chain of gold about thy neck, and shalt be the third ruler in the kingdom. But buttering him up. Then Daniel answered, so Daniel's speaking now, and said before the king, let thy gifts be to thyself, and give thy rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing unto the king, and make known unto the interpretation. O thou king, the most high, capital G, God gave Nebuchadnezzar thy father a kingdom and majesty and glory and honor. Let's get here. And for the majesty that he gave him, all the people, nations, languages trembled and feared before him, to whom he would slew, and whom he kept alive, and whom he would set up, and whom he would put down. But when his heart was lifted up and his mind hardened in pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory to him. Go ahead, Donald.
And he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beast, and his dwelling was with the wild asses. They found him with grass like oxen. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High God, capital G, ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he appointeth over it whomsoever he will. And though his son, O Belshazzar, has not humbled thine heart, though thou knowest all this, but he has lifted up thyself against the Lord of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before thee, and thou and thy lords, thy wives, and thy concubines have drank wine in them. And thou hast praised the gods of silver and gold, of brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor hear, nor know, and in whose are all thy ways hast thou not glorified.
He's defiled him. Then defied him.
Yeah.
Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written.
All right. Now, I want to see see David try to.
Is that Mimi? No, that's Mimi. I know what a Mimi is.
All right, David, go ahead. Read verse 25 and 26 for us.
Wait a minute. Okay. Numbered. That's what Mimi is. The repetition for emphasis. God had numbered the days of Belshazzar's kingdom, and the time was up. Tekel means weighted. God had weighted Belshazzar's character, and he did not measure up. Here's one I can't pronounce. Upharsin, the plural of Peres, means divided. That very night, Babylon would be divided and defeated by the Medes and the Persians. So you want me to try to pronounce that?
Mini Tekel Upperson.
Yeah, go ahead. Read verses 25 and 26, Dave.
This is the inscription that was written. Mini, mini, miny, mo. That just flows out. You know, that just.
Mini.
Yeah.
Mini, tekel, Upharsin. Numbered, weighted, and divided. This is the interpretation of the message meaning. God has numbered the days of your kingdom and put an end to it.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was kind of lost there for a minute.
That was verse 26.
Yeah. All right, verse 27.
Okay. Tekel, you have been weighted on the scales of righteousness and found deficient. Peres, your kingdom has been divided and given over to the Medes and Persians. We keep going? What are y'all gonna read?
I got this. Then commanded Belteshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet, and put a chain of gold about his neck, and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. And that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain, and Darius, the Median, took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. And that is Daniel chapter 5.
Okay, let's do a little, see if I can't find this in Isaiah. This is 21:2. Isaiah come after Job.
Yep.
Okay. Verse 14. I forgot what I said. Isaiah 21:2, 25. Do you remember what I said?
21:2, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know Isaiah prophesied this, and he even named Cyrus as the one doing it, and he told exactly how he was going to capture Babylon. He describes the inner gates. They went, the river Euphrates flowed right through the city itself. Well, they had walls facing the river as well as on the outside, and they had, I don't know, like maybe 3 bridges that connected, and they were so confident that they left them gates open. But what Cyrus did was that he diverted the flow of the river, so he could go under where the bars they had going down into the water, it got down below the bars, and they could go under dry land, come up, and go through the open gates. So they didn't have to do a siege. They just dried up the riverbed, and when they captured it, they fixed it where the river took back its natural flow again.
Right.
But that's described in one of the chapters of Isaiah. And that was 150 years before it happened.
Right.
So he named the guy 150 years before it happened.
Interesting.
So the Euphrates can be dried up
Yep,
even today.
yep. You know how it's dried up today?
Turkey's got it down. Turkey holds the key to that.
Well, you know when ISIS was going through there, they controlled the dam. They cut the water flow off so they could go across the bottom down there. It's shallow water. They just walk right across it.
It's dammed up.
Yeah.
Turkey controls it. And Turkey and Iran and Russia have a pact. They have a peace treaty. Remember that? Several years back.
Is that before or after Iran and
Turkey, Iran, and Russia.
you know when Saddam Hussein was fighting Iran? I wonder how that treaty went back then, or did that happen after that?
It happened after that. I don't know exactly when it happened, but it was on
I'm surprised.
news. But they had a pact. They have peace with each other. They got each other's back.
Yeah.
Russia, Turkey, and Iran. And you ain't heard nothing out of Turkey and Iran over this mess right now. And China ain't saying much. Just running my mouth.
I like it.
I know when I talk about Revelations about the drying up of the river, they can do it now.
The capability is there. And a lot of them say that China is the million man comes across it. So, and you gotta look at where Russia's at today, but Russia's had this land before. But it's still gonna put them closer to Israel.
Yeah.
Once they capture all that, especially if they get the Baltic states back.
Yeah.
They're gonna be knocking on Israel's door at that time.
Here's another thing that this is what Turkey's done to Russia, and they're an ally, been their allies. They have prevented them from going through the strait where Istanbul is. It goes to the Black Sea. They're forbidding Russian ships going in there.
That's why he took Crimea, because it sits right there on
So
Black Sea. Had to have that sea.
unless they send submarines in there, the motherships can't get in there.
Gotta get that oil out somehow. You gotta have
Well,
an ocean, you got an
Yeah,
access to the ocean. The Black Sea.
Germany shut that pipeline down on them.
It's a mess.
So we have gone just 25 minutes.
25 minutes.
Yep.
Well, let's shut it off there then, because next week